Phil and Ollie, welcome to the Game Informer Show, guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. You're moving the camera around for the Skype call earlier, and I feel like I got a full tour of... Is this your office here?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we are in the attic room of my house. It's not quite as posh as an office, but it's got chairs, it's got desks.
What the hell else do you need?
Plaques up and stuff.
Yeah, and so this is where Overcooked was made, was in the attic of your house?
No. So this is a step up from our last place, which was literally in the front room of my last house. I was writing about it the other day, and there's actually still a dent in the sofa from where Ollie was sat making the first game.
So when we made the first game, Phil was renting. We were in Cambridge. We're now up in Manchester, and we didn't have desks or anything. Well, you had a desk.
I had a desk under the stairs. It was very Harry Potter.
And I had just a laptop on my lap for the whole of development, which is really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'd imagine. And what is the team like? Is it just you two? Are there other people around here?
Three of us. So it's us two and Gemma, who does writing and stuff. It's actually over there right now.
Okay, we can hear her laugh echoing through the halls. It's perfect. Yeah. Where did all you guys come from? How did you meet? How did this whole thing start?
So we met when we were working together at Frontier Developments. That's where we used to work. We worked there for about, how long were you there then?
6 years.
6, I think. I was a little longer. I was maybe 7 or 8.
And what, hang on, stop. What era of Frontier is this then?
So I started on Connectimals, and I worked on a lot of Connect games.
I started on Lost Winds too.
Yeah.
I was just before that. Yeah, we both did Connectimals, and I did all sorts. I mean, it's kind of a weird company to work for at that time, because they were just doing so many different types of games. So we've all worked on mobile games and tablet games and consoles and Wii and Connect.
So you guys got to be there during Peak, Skittles, the cat, the tiger, during all that stuff on the stage.
Yeah. I wrote a lot of the tricks that you teach to Skittles in Connectimals. It's all the things where the beg gesture and all the getting to stand up and stuff. That was all me.
Shining stuff. You guys still talk to the folks at Frontier? It must be exciting for them to be working on Jurassic World.
Yeah, we actually ran into them at E3 this year when they were doing their big Jurassic Park race.
Yeah, they've come up in the world.
Yeah, they've got a lot more of a budget these days.
Yeah, but imagine they're all secretly jealous of you guys for they get to go off and do their own thing, create this critically acclaimed little darling game like Overcooked. I'm sure that the jealousy goes both ways.
I'd like to be able to focus on a task sometimes. You can do it a lot in a studio.
Yeah. Spend a whole day doing just one job.
Yeah, you could work on cameras for a month. That's nice.
Okay, so you guys are at Frontier and you guys met and madly fell in love with the working relationship here. And then where does it go from there?
So we did loads of different prototypes when we were at Frontier in our spare time, basically because we all used to meet up together and play games like any local multiplayer games we could get our hands on. I think that's kind of where it started, right?
Yeah, everything we prototyped was always local multiplayer. That was something we always wanted to do, just because those are the games we were playing at lunch. And then we came up with the idea of Overcooked while we were there, and we were sort of messing around with prototypes, and eventually got the opportunity to go indie for a while. And we had about a year, I think, of time to do that, and we managed to get it just about done in the time for the first game, and sort of went from there.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Do you guys? All right, I'm trying to think of the first time I heard about Overcooked. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but am I nuts? I remember seeing somebody from the No Man's Sky team saying they were related to somebody in the Overcooked team. Is that right?
Yeah, so my brother is the art director at Hello Games.
Really?
So they were actually the people that we took the game to originally and played it.
Yes.
They gave us advice.
Really? What advice did Hello Games have? What advice did Hello Games have for Overcooked?
I think actually the big bit of advice we got is when you're working on a game, try not to just focus in on the fun development side of things, but also think about the marketing and the social media and all this side of things as well. Because that was something that we were very tempted to do. It's just okay, well, we'll make the game we want to make, and then afterwards we'll see if anyone cares.
Yeah, it was the advice of treating the marketing as part of the development, because it's in some ways it's like the tutorial, because it's the first thing that players see. So you sort of think of it all in a games design way. And that was a really interesting idea that they had. And we tried to do that, sort of treat the community management as part of the game.
It's a fascinating lesson to learn from Hello Games. But I imagine this is kind of in the wake of their most trying times after the initial game's launch. So that was forefront in their heads. It's don't blow this thing. Don't make the mistakes we did.
Yeah, we've been able to learn from not from their mistakes, but we've certainly been able to get a lot of advice from them, and they have years of experience, both as an indie studio and then as like AAA.
Because working in a studio as we did before, you kind of completely separated from the community.
Yeah.
So we didn't really have any knowledge or handle on how to we could make a game ourselves, but how to actually release it and how to go through that process of releasing a trailer and managing, sending it out to YouTubers.
Yeah, because back when we were working with Frontier, that's all handled by a completely different department, and they don't talk to us at all.
You don't even think about it.
You just occasionally get an email from someone saying, we need a trailer in 2 weeks, and then suddenly everyone has to drop everything and go make one of those. Whereas
right.
It's like, we got no one to email, we have to do all that ourselves.
Yeah, one of the big things with Overcooked was we massively underestimated how much work that was. So it ended up being because we thought, we'll just do that as a thing on the side. That's what we ended up with. So it was originally just the two of us, and then Gemma ended up going on to do a lot of our community management stuff, because we just couldn't keep on top of that.
It seems like, I'd imagine so many indie devs have a tough time being like, all right, look, it's an 8-bit Metroidvania, but here's why it's different. Whereas I feel like some aspect of the marketing and the messaging for Overcooked has to be a little bit easier, because it's just get in front of some streamers, get in front of some YouTubers. It's very tough not to have a good time while playing Overcooked with a group of friends. And so that part seems easier on your half, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that I don't even think we were prepared for that, though, especially. I mean, after the release, just seeing people play it and having a good time. I mean, I think that the launch week, that's all I did was just sit and watch streamers play it, and, with a notepad and pen, just being like, are they finding bugs? Because I still couldn't let go of the dev side of things.
The answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was really difficult for Overcooked was because the game was quite different to other cooking games and other local multiplayer games, was trying to find a way of explaining what it was to people. We spent a lot of time on the development of the game trying to get that sort of intro section to both not be really complicated for players coming into the game new, but also to not feel like it was just going to be a very simple simulation of cooking.
That's it. We had a lot of people that would just take a glance at the game and be like, oh, it's a cooking game, I don't play cooking games. We were like, no, it's so much more. It's not just about cooking,
this
is a game about
chips.
Yeah, so we really tried to up the ante when it came to just going above and beyond.
It's just a game about screaming at your friends. I mean, that's just the message you have to get across. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people didn't even realize the game was cooperative. We'll take it to conventions, because we did a lot of convention playthroughs and stuff where we were developing it to try and get sort of a sense of what would work and what wouldn't. A lot of people would play a couple, halfway through the level and be like, oh, we're not fighting.
Yeah.
Which is really weird. Oh, we're supposed to be working together. It's like, yeah, I said local co-op.
Damn it, games, you've trained us incorrectly for years and years.
Yeah. You were so used to fighting in games and so unused to working together.
Yeah. What was the most shocking reaction when that first game launched? Did you get any reaction from other devs, or what was the most impactful reaction you received?
I loved hearing other studios that we respected, that they played it at their lunchtimes. Because that's what we built it for ourselves to play at lunchtime as a start. And so we heard about the fact that lots of people we knew. I can't remember what studios. I'm not going to give specific names because I'm going to get them wrong. But they were like,
I'll send an angry email afterwards. I never played your game.
I'm playing. It's like, do they? Did they? I think they did. It was really cool because that was in some ways where we started with being our audience. And then there were the couples playing the game together, people playing with their kids. Kind of cool.
When Penny Arcade wrote a comic, that was a big deal for me. I ended up being like, wow, they not only have they heard about it, but they thought about it enough to draw a comic for us. It's amazing. It's actually down here. Yeah,
really?
That's probably now I'm thinking of it.
And Tim Schafer played it for the first time. That was cool.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was really scary. So Tim Schafer actually played it when we were partway into the development of the game. We sent them a build months ago, and they sent us a message hours before they were about to play it. And of course, for us, it's 9 in the evening. We get this message that they're going to play a really shaky build that we sent to them on a live stream. So we're there 10 o'clock at night, bags under our eyes, just staring at this stream and watching things
really broken.
Oh, so broken.
Awful. Because we'd sent it to them we at the time we were asking to be published.
Yeah.
And we sent the thing. They were like, they were busy. Actually, they'd been doing Cyclops 2 at the time, I think, and we didn't know that because it wasn't announced. But they said they offered to play it and give us some feedback. We were like, oh yeah, sure, that'd be great. What we didn't realize was what they meant was on their live stream. So that was the first time Overcooked got massive public.
I remember Tim
awareness.
Schafer getting stuck in some stairs.
Oh no!
And they were doing a pizza level, and pizzas just didn't work, and they couldn't serve them.
But look, Tim Schafer, best case scenario, if he gets stuck, if there's a glitch, he's just gonna laugh it off and make some joke. It's not like he's just gonna stare directly into the camera and be like, "Fuck this game."
It's true, but at the time, it just hurts your heart so much. You feel like you're letting him down.
I'm sorry, Mr. Schafer. Questions about the first game. 2 very specific questions. The raccoon in a wheelchair. What's the origin story there?
Okay. So the origin story for the raccoon in a wheelchair, do you mean the character's origin or how we came up with it?
I guess how he came up with it, but if he has some deep lore, I'd love to hear it.
I was going to go way back to he was born in a skip. So we don't really have one. Well, that's kind of a story, isn't it?
So we've wanted, because it's a local co-op game with a lot of, we wanted to try and represent as many people as possible. We had a whole thing about trying to get as much sort of racial diversity, gender diversity in the game as we could. And we wanted to also represent disability in the game. Basically the reason that there's a raccoon in a wheelchair was because we'd started moving the game towards more and more animal chefs over the course of development, just because we found that when you're trying to represent everybody, the easiest thing to do is to make everyone animals. Because animals kind of are universal in that they don't really have a gender, they don't really have a race. And so the raccoon being in a wheelchair is sort of it's a universally representative character for people in wheelchairs.
But there was this really great conversation we were having. We were like, okay, so which one of our characters is going to be in a wheelchair? We had to choose. We had to choose which of our many animal chefs.
Sort of dark in a way.
It's got to be the raccoon. It's just the best. All right, here's a very deep, weird question for you. Have you guys ever seen the Michael Keaton movie called The Founder about McDonald's?
No, I haven't. I know of it, but I've never seen it.
There is this sequence in that movie that is right up your guys' alley where he's redesigning early McDonald's kitchens to get optimal food flow. It is the most overcooked ass sequence in movie history. So if you guys are ever interested,
interesting.
I think it's up your alley.
Wow, yeah, I have to check that out.
Yeah, look into that. That's weird.
Okay, so Overcooked 2, we should dive in a little bit because Overcooked, it's so great, so lovely. It feels like the type of game that could be a living game. If you guys wanted to make it so what was the idea behind? Let's just go for a sequel and rip this off right away.
So Overcooked 2 kind of came about because the first game did so well that we got so many messages from people just clamoring for more, basically. So we were still a 2-person studio at the time, now 3, but we're not a big outfit.
Yeah.
And we just got loads and loads of messages from people constantly wanting more content and wanting online multiplayer. It was just the big thing. Our Steam forum page is hundreds of pages.
Yeah, there's a really dark 80-page Steam thread of people asking for online multiplayer.
Yeah.
It gets really quite hostile in there.
Do you have it pinned up on the wall in the office somewhere?
Yeah, we basically had this situation where the game was doing really well and people wanted more, but we couldn't really keep up with it.
Yeah.
So it was only when Debbie Bestwick from Team 17, she kind of approached us and said, well, look, we've helped you with the publishing side of things. We actually have a team available if you wanted to work with them. And we could maybe do a sequel with online multiplayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were kind of hesitant about it at first, but we basically sat down with the team and we talked over what we saw, what we'd want to include in a sequel, all the kind of mechanics and things we weren't able to fit into the first one or just way out of scope. 2-person's team. Because
the first game, we only had that sort of year of development or so, and we totally ran to absolutely no money. So we were completely exhausted at that point. And we had so many features in the first game that we wanted to add. So we had this long list of things we wanted to add. And this we just saw when they offered to, they had some people available, it was an opportunity to just add loads of content that we wanted to add in more time. And make a sort of bigger, more polished version of it. Kind of what we would do if we had a larger studio of our own, sort of, because we never really want to expand to being a massive studio, and this was an opportunity to do that we wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? With the first game, being small is so fantastic because it means that we can just change our mind all the time. We can make mistakes really quickly, and we can, we don't have to worry about steering a big ship. Whereas this time around, we'd sort of built the foundation with Overcooked 1. So now it's like, okay, we can build on that and we can expand on it. And that's when it's perfect for having like a slightly bigger team.
Because you've already got a direction. You know what Overcooked is, but you just can add massive amounts of content and mechanics.
Is it just that much easier? You guys have the workflow down and you can just crank out levels now pretty, not easy, I'd imagine, but...
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of aspects to it, because designing levels is always a very iterative process with Overcooked. Lots of user testing is involved, just because the game is so psychological. Because it's a group of people, you don't really know how it's going to work until you get 4 people in front of it and then see what people end up encouraged to do.
You're also designing for 1, 2, 3, and 4 player combinations, which always changes the dynamic, and you always need to think about like placement of objects.
Yeah. Fortunately, Team 17 have an in-house sort of user testing lab. So we had people coming in teams and like trying out the game there, because we had to be a lot more cautious with this game to try and do all of our user testing sort of behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to announce the game until we were ready and knew that it was going to be good.
So whereas last time we could take it to conventions and put it in front of people and nobody really cares.
Yeah, no one cared
about it.
It was fine.
Yeah, no one cares until Tim Schafer plays it. Yeah. All right. So online multiplayer. What were the other things that all the forums were screaming for that you guys are delivering this time around?
So one of the things that we wanted to add really strongly was a sort of more these sort of transition levels, the dynamic levels, where you start off in one kitchen and then the game sort of transitions into a new type of kitchen. That was something that's going to require a lot of artwork. So the big example of that we've shown a lot in sort of demos and stuff in E3 was the hot air balloon that crashes into a sushi kitchen. And you sort of have to go from dealing with the just sort of simple salad recipes at the top to going crashing down and dealing with sushi recipes coming in at the sides. But obviously that requires a lot of artwork, which is something that we could only do when we had a larger team to do it. And I guess the other thing is recipes.
Yeah, there's recipes, there's new kitchens, there's just new chefs, just everything that we had, we were bombarded by from the community. People were just asking for more content, basically, and that was great for us because we had this whole bag of ideas we hadn't been able to implement just because we ran out of time. Well, and then there's lots of things. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it was one of the things that people were clamoring for as well. Is like, hey, make this harder. We've topped out everything. Are you going to have like any sort of challenge mode, or would you consider Overcooked 2 more difficult than the first?
So we kind of had feedback in both directions. We had some people saying the difficulty curve was too hard and there was some like bumpy levels, which I agree with. I think there's some levels where it definitely spikes it. But then, we have some people who got to the end of it and are just like, no, I want harder things. So that's one of the things we're trying to address with Overcooked 2. I think what we've done is we've smoothed out the difficulty curve at the start, but then we also have plans to build on it to make it more difficult, make it more challenging for like more advanced players.
Yeah, I think there are levels in it that are harder than Overcooked levels in the base game as it is, and also there's the hidden levels on the map. Yeah, those are very difficult.
Some of them are hard. Yeah.
So we have on Overcooked 2 we have levels that aren't part of the sort of main campaign, but you find them by exploring on the world map. The sort of Kevin hidden challenge levels. Yeah. So those are difficult levels, and the end of the game is probably harder. I think, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah. There were some really unbalanced levels of Overcooked.
It's definitely one of those things we're going to be watching very carefully when the game comes out and just see how people get on with the new levels. But we have got plans.
There is sort of post-release content as well for trying to make the game sort of have an extra level to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the Overcooked saga in general, is it the most fun you've had in the video game industry so far?
Yes, definitely. It's been really weird because I feel much more connected to the video game industry as an indie than I felt as a person in a studio in some ways.
Yeah, I think because you're wearing so many different hats, you're sort of you're more tied to the game because you know every single aspect of it, but then you're also tied to the community a lot more because you're actually having to face those questions and face the people that are responding and watching the YouTube videos, which we didn't really have before.
And we're actually going to conventions, because I think the first time I ever went to conventions was when we were like just starting out as Go Games, because I'd never really attended one before. Because as a developer, you don't usually, as when you're working in a large studio, go to conventions.
Yeah.
And community interaction has actually been really nice. Like our community in general has been really positive for Overcooked 1. I think because it's a local multiplayer game, maybe
100%.
that has.
I think that's huge. I think people get in the mode of helping each other out and being friendly, and it completely changes the tone and tenor of a community, I think.
Yeah, and so our interaction with the community has been really nice. We've got really sort of like sweet bits of fan art of people, and some really nice emails about people saying the experiences they've had, and all that kind of thing.
I think one of the other good things or great things about Overcooked is the fact that you don't need to be like a hardcore gamer to play it.
Yeah.
Like the controls are so simple that the difficulty comes more in how you work as a team than it does in like how competent you are at using a controller or how many games you've played. You can't carry the game as a player in Overcooked. You can only work
you
well
have
as a
to
part
work,
of a team.
Yeah, it's all about your communication, not necessarily about how good at games you are in some ways. That was a happy accident because when we were taking it to conventions, it was, I think our first convention, we had like a 7-year-old kid play the game.
Oh yeah, so she sits down and at this point it's only me and Ollie who have played it.
Yeah.
And we're like heart in mouth at the moment. Okay, she's no way going to be able to cover this.
Disaster.
But yeah, no, she just took to it, didn't she? So she instantly, because it's 2 buttons, right? You got to pick up and put down and then chop. So she was picking it up and she was putting it up and chopping and she fell in love with it. And it was really great to see, because even she was a little bit cautious, like, oh, maybe I won't be able to play this. But then by the end of the convention, she was going around and grabbing people and bringing them to the table and explaining the game. It's great. Just let her do it.
Yeah, and knowing that we had like controls that were sort of so simple at the beginning that kids could pick it up, then we started thinking about, well, we've got to keep that and then try and make a game where those kind of players, because it sort of naturally is a game where players that aren't necessarily hardcore gamers can play with hardcore gamers because it's the communication that matters and not.
I like the fact that it's not an easy game, but it's not hard because of the controls.
Yeah, it's a hard game that is hard because of communication.
Right. It's perfect. Why do you guys think you work so well together? What have you learned about each other over the last couple of years here?
Too much.
Okay, I'd imagine.
Too much.
No, I think we work. The way I always answer this is that I think Ollie is devil may care, so he doesn't. I like to measure twice, cut once. You like to
cut everything.
Just cut.
The bad boy of the games industry.
Which sort of works in that I would probably have already crashed and burned by saying something stupid on Twitter. And I think there's a lot of, making a co-op game, I think you have to be sort of this, the game in some ways teaches you about communication.
Yeah.
And assists you.
Well, we were saying we've cooked together and we've been in the kitchen together and stuff since, and I feel like our coordination and stuff's got a little bit better since Overcooked. That's a big part.
It was weird, you get better at cooperating for strange things like unpacking a lorry or
we were taking a sofa up the stairs. Do you remember that? And we were like, we're pretty good at this now. Comes from Overcooked.
Yeah, because it's sort of like, oh yeah, you're doing that, so I'm going to go. It's like building furniture. I remember building furniture somewhere.
Overcooked kind of teaches you that if one person's doing a job, you just leave them to
leave them to that, and then you go do things.
Don't bother. You guys are really improving relationships across the world at this point with the Overcooked series.
It's one or the other.
Uh-huh.
That's true. It's being tested, you got to make it through the fire and come out the other end there.
We've heard that a lot on Twitter, actually. I think that in China, apparently, they have a nickname for it, which is Divorce Kitchen.
Yes. It was being used as a relationship tester.
Yeah, which I like. I like the idea that if you can survive the campaign of Overcooked together, then maybe it's true love.
It's true love then, yeah. It was like that.
Where's that coming from? Just the Chinese gaming community came up with that?
Yeah. It's a whole thing. People were buying it as like a test.
That's amazing. How are you guys feeling about Overcooked at this point? I'm sure you're at peak Overcooked 2 exhaustion, but you want to keep this rolling? Do you want to be known as the Overcooked studio moving forward?
We definitely want to do other stuff as well, I think.
Yeah.
I think Overcooked 2 will continue for quite a while, I suspect, with us producing extra stuff for it. We have any immediate plans to be like, oh, and now Overcooked 3, I don't think.
Yeah.
No.
More kind of like, okay, we've got Overcooked 2, let's get that out, let's support that for as long as we can.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a bit of a love letter to fans, didn't it, doing Overcooked 2?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, we've also got our, other prototypes and bits and pieces that we're working on. It's kind of up in the air, though. I don't think we have a definitive 5-year plan that we're going to do as a studio. But
no, that's the nice thing about being small is that you don't need a 5-year plan. It's not like we have a team of 100 people that we have to keep in work. It's just us. So we have been experimenting with little prototypes on the side. We have been, over the course of developing Overcooked 2 and Overcooked 1, to some extent talking about ideas for games we'd like to make. And there's a lot of game ideas that we have. we haven't like gone like, oh yeah, definitely that's what we're doing in the next.
Well, like throwing, for example, in Overcooked 2 came about from another separate prototype that we had that was just like a throwing thing that we worked on. And we were like, oh, this would actually work well for Overcooked. That kind of got
we ended up taking a lot of ideas for like future games and being like, oh yeah, we should put that into the next game, into Overcooked as well. And coming in, we got like the moving platform stuff. All like in the...
Oh, gotcha. So some platformy type stuff. But Phil, you ever inspired by your brother, and Overcooked will be your Joe Danger, and then the next game you guys make is just going to be batshit insane?
So
it'll have to be a procedurally generated. What's bigger than a universe?
Procedurally generated multi-universe. I think we'll probably not jump to universe simulation from here.
That's fair. Cool. Anything else you guys want to say about Overcooked 2 here?
That is out on August 7th, and you can pre-order it now. And well, it's nearly out.
It's on everything: Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Switch.
Yeah, and that it's great.
It's gonna be big on Switch. Are you guys feeling confident in the Switch version?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's my favorite version. That's my way to play it. That's the way I play it with the original game. So
that's how I play most indie games now. Weirdly, it's I tend to get them on because it's portable and you can play on planes and stuff. I've ended up playing a lot of.
Oh yeah. If your plane's delayed or you're waiting for a train, it's so good to just be able to crank out the Switch.
It's so silly. Even when, like, I already own a game on Steam, like Iconoclast, and it's like, well, it's coming out on Switch. Maybe I should just get Iconoclast on Switch. Maybe that's where I'll get into it. It's like, it's the same game. It just feels friendlier, you know?
Yeah, no, totally.
Well, I rebought Skyrim, and I've been playing through the whole of Skyrim on Switch, and that's a game I played to death.
Cool. Well, hey, Phil and Ollie, look forward to seeing what you guys do next, and congratulations on Overcooked 2, you guys.
Cool. Well,
thank you very much.
That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.